Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here once again to serve the latest helping. The subject of today's discussion is Jews of Africa and African Jews. I'm going to repeat. On the table this afternoon is the subject Jews of Africa and African Jews. Ladies and gentlemen, these two terms seem very similar, seem to be the same thing, but they are completely different. They have different origins, they have different ethnogenesis. I will get into the subject of Jews of Africa first. Dig into books, dig into articles, talk to knowledgeable people. The term Jews of Africa has existed for nearly 100 years in the literature, or probably more. I repeat, the term Jews of Africa is older. It's definitely older than 60 years. Probably much older. And I want to state categorically that it referred exclusively to only the Igbo people. Go to the literatures and confirm. Go to the history books and confirm. The term Jews of Africa referred exclusively only to the Igbo people, nobody else. Meanwhile, I am not saying that there were no other Jews in the continent of Africa. I know there were. I know that there were Ashkenazi and Sephardi communities in the country called South Africa. But these guys in South Africa were not seen as Africans, so they were not called Jews of Africa. They were viewed as European Jews based in the continent of Africa. There may have been Jewish communities in the North African rim, that is, in the lands bordering the Mediterranean, but they were not referred to as Jews of Africa, because likely they would come under the Arab orbit, and the Arabs are not seen as Africans. If you go to the books, people have said Arabs and Africans, clearly stating, meaning that both are different ethnicities. So when they say Jews of Africa, they mean exclusively the Igbos. I'll mention a few giants who made this statement, who used this descriptive to talk about the Igbo people. One was Right Honorable Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the founding father of the country called Nigeria, the father of Pan-Africanism in the African continent, the mentor of Nkrumah, Mandela, and who is who in Africa. He referred to his people as Jews of Africa. World heavyweight boxing champion Dick Tiger talked about it in New York. He said, "My people are called Jews of Africa." World famous American Secretary of State Henry Kissinger called the Igbos Jews of Africa. If you want, I can continue. It's all over the books, it's everywhere. I will now get into. By the way, before I get into the question of African Jews, I will also mention one very important personality who is still with us, Olusegun Obasanjo, at present times the biggest Nigerian, two-time head of state, the most respected political leader of Nigeria, referred to the Igbos as Jews of Africa. He is of Yoruba stock. I will now get into the question of African Jews. is a new terminology. It represents groups that began to adhere to Rabbinic Judaism in the continent of Africa, or groups that some scholars imagine and have written that they might be connected to the Israelites. It's a new terminology. I am saying this because the contemporary Igbo, on hearing Jews of Africa and African Jews, may jump to the conclusion that both terms mean the same and that both refer to him. No. What refers to the Igbos is Jews of Africa. I'm going to this extent, I'm going because for too long, foreigners, aliens, sometimes very hostile, have discussed the history of the Igbos. And what they have basically put out are lies. We were all witnesses to what happened so many years ago, a few years ago actually, about 5 years ago. An American Christian group fell on a group of Igbos who were, by the way, transactional and greedy. And pretending that they had studied the Igbo DNA, they released a false report that they compared the Igbo DNA and the Jewish DNA and came to the conclusion that the Igbo DNA shows that the Igbo people are not related to the Israelites. They did not say they compared the Igbo DNA and the Israelite DNA. But let us leave that and go to the essential weakness of their so-called research. They said that from their findings that the Igbo DNA is strictly sub-Saharan. Well, you are looking at the front cover of a book I wrote about the Igbo DNA. The designers of this of the map that I used is my Heritage Incorporated. Is an American company. It designed a map to describe my genetic history. The major concentration of my genes are found in Egypt, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. When did these places fall into sub-Saharan Africa? But till date, till tomorrow, the Christian group that let out this false report about Igbos is still using their false report to raise funds. It's still on their website. And the ignorant Igbos cite them. And the newspapers that rejoiced when this report came out that Igbos had been humiliated, they have not taken back the falsehood. They have not apologized. And meanwhile, the distortion of Igbo history continues to exist. If you want, you can find this book on Amazon. It is Igbo and Abraham's DNA. If you want to know more about the Igbo people, you can take a look at Igbo Americans. And I'll conclude by saying that we were called Jews of Africa because Jew had become the most representative term for the people of Israel 80, 100 years ago. Ideally, we are Hebrews because Igbo is Hebrew. And on this note, I say, have a very beautiful day. Thank you.